to a brand new week and another edition of the Art Lewis Show here on WSGW. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, we'll be chatting with Representative Bill G. Schuette. At 11 o'clock, we'll learn about Northwood's Wholesale Outlet Fishing Sale coming up. That's on Focus this morning. But for this hour, we're going to spend it with a Bay City native who graduated Saginaw Valley State University in 19... I won't tell you that unless she wants to. But now she is the Chief of Staff at AI Business Solutions for Microsoft. She's going to be speaking at Saginaw Valley, part of the Dow Visiting Scholars Program. And we're going to talk about AI integration, and particularly in business. But I think, there's a lot of things to talk about with AI. And to that extent, we welcome to the program this morning Amber Graydon.
Good morning.
Morning, Amber. Nice to have you with us this morning. Pull that mic just in front of you. And so I think before we get into the topic, how did you end up at Microsoft in Seattle from little old Saginaw Valley State University?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I got my start right out of my degree. It was an accounting degree. I'm from Saginaw Valley. Got my start at a CPA firm called Weinlander Fitzhugh in Bay City. They were wonderful to me. And I made my way out west, and I
on purpose.
On purpose.
Okay.
On purpose, yeah. When I was, I don't even know how old I was anymore. It was about 15 or so years ago. I was looking at different cities, and I had family in Seattle, and it was a place that I had grown up visiting and really loved.
Oh, so you had a destination in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the long story is, I'd met some of the partners from the firm, one of the firm called RSM out there in Seattle, and they said, come talk to us. We'd love to have you up there. And so they gave me a job. And
were you a CPA? You have CPA?
I think I still technically am.
Once you got it.
You got it, but you got to do some education around it.
Yeah.
I'm a little stale on that front, but I slowly I worked in public practice for a while. I spent a fair bit of time there, and then I made my way into tech. First at a company called Getty Images, which is a stock photography company.
Yep.
Then I went over to Expedia, which was started by a couple of Microsofties, as it turns out. And then I applied to Microsoft. It's funny, I ended up leveraging some background I had from my days in public accounting and real estate. So my first job at Microsoft really wasn't even in tech. I was a corporate controller for the real estate folks. That was my first. It was the way I could get in the door. It was like a unique value prop, met the right people. But then I quickly pivoted into the software world, product.
On purpose? I mean, was that a goal?
Yes, it was. Okay. Yeah, it was a goal because, getting into Microsoft is hard. So you kind of have to find your, the right combination of your unique niche and like who and who you can get 10 minutes to talk with. And that was what I got it on real estate and then just made my way into the product world. And my last job in the finance department, I now work in marketing, but my last job in finance, I was part of this. It's called this strategy finance group. And what I was doing was launching new products. So looking at, what's the potential of the product? What's the market value? We use this word called TAM, the total addressable market. What's the margin structure look like? And so that's how I was able to, have a job at Microsoft focusing on technology. But it's also the way that I was able to pivot into a marketer, which is what I do now.
And you're marketing AI business solutions.
Correct. Yeah. So you can think of my world as AI that you use at work, very simply said. The products that I work on are what you call CRMs, so like customer relationship managers. You might have heard of Salesforce or Dynamics. That's what that is. ERP, which is enterprise resource. That is like your accounting, your back office type of technology. And so that's the type of thing that I work on these days.
Microsoft's almost as big as government. Everything's got initials.
It's massive. It really is massive. And that's why I went there because, hey, I was at a point in my life where I was like, I want to have enough, a big enough company where I can go and I can stay for a long time. I've been there about just a little over 10 years now.
Well,
But
you can build a solid retirement and all that good stuff.
I hope so. Yeah. And you just don't get bored. I mean, there's just so much going on there.
Well, but you're now in that realm that is ever changing and probably right now, at least for many, misunderstood. AI is a scary, scary two initials.
Yeah.
Couple artificial with intelligence. And that can scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah, completely. And it's, what's funny about it is, you can start wherever you want, but it's not a new technology. It's actually an umbrella term for lots of different technologies. It had its origins in, I think it was 1953, the term came out.
Yeah, but the AI of 1953 and the AI of 2026 don't recognize each other.
Very different. And I can tell you a little bit about how that came about. I mean, so, back in the 1950s, it was, machines that could complete, a phrase. AI thinks in tokens. And so it's like, what's the next sequence of numbers? What's the next sequence of words? But the problem with the technology in the early days is it didn't have any context. So like for example, if you had a sentence that said the woman files her, the AI wouldn't know if it was her nails, her taxes, or so on and so forth. In 2017, a group of researchers at Google did a body of research which essentially enabled the AI to understand context. So now instead of being able to look at that sentence, it could look at, the paragraph, the book, the whatever, and really deeply understand the whole thought process. Now I want to maybe put a pin in that word thought, because that's one of the most misunderstood things about AI. So now today, the AI that most people refer to as AI is large language models, right? Large language models that can generate language, right? That's what we're dealing with today. They're generating language, but it's not thought. It seems like thought.
Well, I didn't mean that the AI has thought or generates thought. In order to finish that sentence about the girl and whatever follows, AI has to understand the thought process of the paragraph. It has to interpret the thought that it receives.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And ultimately what it is it's a massive, very expensive autocomplete machine at the end of the day. The AI looks at the universe based on tokens. So not words, but, it can be like a word or a fragment of a word or whatever it is. And it's probabilistic. And so the models are trained. The large models are mostly trained on, language from the internet, as it turns out. And they go through a process called fine-tuning. And what fine-tuning does is it sort of figures out how they want to weight, different scenarios, different outcomes of what the LLM, the large language model, will generate. And so that's ultimately what gives us as the end user the impression of thought, or what the output is that we get.
Well, if it completes a sentence that I was writing, it completes a thought.
Sure. Yeah. You could look at it that way. Yeah.
Whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah. I think the reason I parsed out that particular word is there's a concept called artificial general intelligence, which basically means, the AI is on par with human intelligence. Or there's another concept called artificial superintelligence, which is basically we don't need humans,
Yeah.
The AI can take over.
That's the part that's scary.
Right. But that's why I don't. That's why I was mincing words a little bit with that.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're talking to Amber Graydon. She is going to be at SVSU. We'll talk about that too. Part of a lecture series of visiting scholars, of which she is one. Graduated SVSU back in the day. And I got to tell you, folks, because I told her, she graduated in 2003. It's 23 years ago. She doesn't look 23 years old.
I didn't pay you to say that. Thank you.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with Amber after these notes.
It's the Luck of the Irish for
with you. We're talking to Amber Graydon. She is Chief of Staff for AI Business Solutions for Microsoft. I have to ask this question, Amber. AI is not cheap. Data centers are very expensive. Powering them is unbelievable. State of Michigan now is, the federal government's going to require data centers to provide much of their own power up. Who's paying for all of this?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, it's the hyperscalers, like the folks like Amazon, who has AWS, which is the cloud service, and Microsoft, who has Azure cloud service. A lot of the spend is there. Google as well. Building data centers all over the world. And you're absolutely right. They're not cheap. I can't quote the number of billions that each of these companies has spent, but it has not been insignificant. I can say that.
So for a company like Microsoft, without giving away corporate secrets and all of that stuff, do they build their own data centers, or do they bring in third parties and buy their service?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't even work on that side of the house. And if I did, it's probably proprietary, so I'd probably decline comment regardless.
Be that way.
But
I understand.
Yeah, but it's to be honest, I don't spend as much time looking at the infrastructure of the cloud that powers. But you're absolutely right as far as the energy use, and I have heard public statements about, there's going to come a time when, as a society, we need to look at the benefits that AI is driving and the costs of, the energy and things like that that's powering it, because there's, real environmental impacts. And so I think as a human race, we'll need to reconcile that over time.
Well, the other thing, too, we talked about capitalism. Is there going to be a power struggle between AI providers? Will capitalism rule and the strongest survive?
Yeah, I mean, that's anybody's guess. It's the future is, that's the interesting thing about this topic, Art, is the impacts. I mean, I don't think anybody knows exactly what's going to happen. And if they say they do, I don't know how they would possibly be right.
Because they went to AI and said, what's your future?
Right. But I mean, I think everybody sees the headlines. I certainly am bombarded with headlines just like anybody out there. And
well, you need to.
Right. Yes, that's true. And that's a whole nother topic we could get into, is just the absolute pace. I mean, over the past 3 years has been just an exercise. I get these Monday morning, usually they come on Mondays, but I follow a bunch of people, and then I get, dispatches throughout the week about what's been happening in the competitive landscape. And man, it's a real job just trying to keep up with everything that's going on.
So as Chief of Staff of AI Business Solutions for Microsoft, your role is to market AI to other companies?
Yeah, I should. Yeah, that's I'm in the marketing unit within business apps and agents marketing. And so, so that's my purview. I mean, like we were saying, Microsoft is absolutely massive. So my role at the company is, helping folks understand the value of the tech and how they can use it practically at work.
Primarily in the business world.
Primarily in the
As
business
opposed to me sitting at home.
Correct. Yeah. The consumer world is separate, but related, obviously. And so I spend a lot of my time thinking about hey, if I'm a finance professional, and I kind of anchor on this example because this is where I got my start.
Your background.
It's my background. So for example, how in a finance and accounting organization today, how are people reinventing or reimagining like the things they do every day with AI? How are they building agents, or how are they infusing intelligence and automation into the things that they do every day?
Well, we'll use your financial world. Let's take a CPA firm.
Mm-hmm.
Is it simply a faster calculator, or does it have other helpful attributes that might tell a CPA what they need to know?
Yeah. Let me give you my mental model, in terms of how I think about the capabilities. I think I usually think about three key ways in which AI is useful at work and in a profession like finance and accounting. So I think thing one is its ability to synthesize and summarize information quickly. So let's take example number one. I'm a CPA. Like, let's say I need to catch up on an industry or a particular business. I could upload earnings statements over the past 8 years and upload those to AI, say, give me a summary of this company from an earnings perspective. Tell me how their strategy has changed over the years. Give me a SWOT analysis, which is a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of this company and its major competitors. Basically, within, call it 3 to 5 minutes and a decently written prompt, I could get something that would have taken me many hours, in 5 minutes. So that's one.
So let's stick on that first one. We'll come back to the others. I'm a capitalist. I'm sitting in my corporate headquarters. Somebody is sniffing out my P&Ls for the last 8 years or whatever, looking at it against other industries. Are my competitors doing that to me?
I would hope so. I mean, in the sense that it's the quickest way to get intel on, who you're out there
Which
battling.
Brings the question.
Yeah.
How much is corporate spying and how much is legitimate transfer of information?
Well, okay. In that example, in that example, I'm assuming it's a publicly traded entity,
You're only looking at public records.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, obviously there are privately held companies, but in this example, it's, every publicly traded company files with the SEC and all that stuff. So that's example one. And I would just say, literally 3 to 5 minutes, you could do that. Now it takes a minute to ingest all that information and think about it. But that synthesis and the summarization of catching up really, really quickly is powerful.
Yeah, all right, hang on. We'll get to 2 and 3, I promise.
Yeah.
But I have to take a break. We'll be back talking more with Amber Graydon. Amber is the Chief of Staff of AI Business Solutions for Microsoft and a graduate of Saginaw Valley State University, and she'll be speaking at the university. We'll talk more about that, too. Let me take a moment to talk about my friends at McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland. I hate to say this, folks, but you already know it. It's pothole season. Yay! Be careful driving because those potholes can do a lot of damage, particularly when it comes to tires and alignment. And if you find yourself in a situation where you've hit one too many potholes and you feel your car is not responding the way it should, maybe it's time for a trip out to Quick Lane Freeland and have them check out your tires and your steering, suspension, and all that good stuff, because the last thing you want is to have to replace tires prematurely because you have misalignment or some part failing under your vehicle. And if you go to Quick Lane Freeland, they can give you the straight up and tell you what kind of damage, if any, you've had. Also, if it comes down to tires, don't forget they sell all their tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland. Right next to McDonald Ford. They're part of the McDonald Ford property, actually. And while you're there, walk over and take a look at the new Fords from McDonald Ford, as well as their pre-owned vehicle lot. Lots of great vehicles. I'm driving one this week. It's a 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit model. Just one of the many things you'll find. They're not all Fords on that pre-owned lot. There's something for every buyer. McDonald Ford, Quick Lane Freeland, 2 names standing ready to help you with all your automotive needs in 2026.
Gotta go.
She is Chief of Staff of AI Business Solutions for Microsoft and a graduate of Saginaw Valley State University, where she will be over the next few days lecturing classes about AI and business. So we had covered the first tier of AI, and you said you had 2 more.
Yeah, well, I was just giving my mental model of how I think about when people say, what's AI good at, right? I have this, sort of three pillar mental model. The first was information synthesis. The second one is kind of around content creation and communication. at scale, in particular at scale. So, if you think about what a lot of people are using AI for, a lot of it's for writing. A lot of it's for thinking and writing and thought partnership.
Stuff we used to do as humans.
That's right. But and especially now as a marketer, I mean, its ability to, honestly crank out content, blogs, social, thought leadership, things like that. I mean, you can take something, and I do this fairly often. You take a piece of writing and you say, okay, now convert this blog into a LinkedIn post or an Instagram post, or, you can say TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but you could. And so that's one of the things that I think it really does well. I don't fancy myself, the best writer. I'm more, I trained more in I lived in Excel. Right. Yeah. So, I've personally found a lot of value in it helping me, write more clearly, more succinctly. If I want to get it into a different tone, I mean, you can prompt AI and say, take this and write it in the style of the New York Times, or write this in the style of, pick your, major publication, because it's been trained on that, and it's.
And it's interesting you say that, because that would be a use I could see for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is I am not a good writer. Not because I can't write, but I write for the spoken word. I don't write for the visual read.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very, very different styles.
Yeah.
So I could write my version and then say to I, convert this to the New York Times style or to the written style.
Right.
And I can see the benefit there, because it could do what I can't.
That's right. And it does it really quickly.
Yeah.
And at scale. So
what do you mean by scale? You say scale.
Yeah, scale just meaning you can take one bit of information or one bit of content you created, and then you can scale it to many different uses. It's kind of a term maybe more from economics, in terms of you take a resource and you spread it out in a way that's really efficient, so your cost per unit's really low. That's probably the former accountant in me that still thinks that.
Here come the numbers.
Yeah, here they come. So that's kind of the pillar number 2. And, I personally use this every day. It's when OpenAI publishes fairly regularly lists of, what are people doing with AI? And that's one of the biggest use cases you see around writing and thought partnership specifically.
Yeah, I can see that. I would understand that. That wouldn't bother me. That's number 2.
Yeah.
So what's this third pillar?
Yeah. So the third pillar I think of as decision-making support, analysis and decision-making support. And, this can take lots of different forms. And now we're getting into the consumer world, but, how many times are you like...
There's an important word distinction there. Decision-making support.
That's right.
Not replacement.
That's right. Yeah. So it can be anything. It can be, hey, I did this the other day. My family's planning a trip to Argentina next year. And I said, hey, I want to go for 12 days. I want to go blah, 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 map out something.
Sure.
And to your point about support, it did give me a pretty good framework to work with, but I caught it making mistakes in terms of some of the flights that it was recommending that I take, because, as I dug into it, it's like, oh, well, I couldn't do that because it runs once a day and it doesn't actually go to where I want to go. And so, but in the business context, I would say, you can prompt, and I could talk more about when I say prompt, I mean, there's an art around prompting.
Well, the one thing about AI that's universally true about IT: garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, well, that's true of the prompt. It's also true of the data or the information that the AI is grounded
was built
in.
on.
Exactly.
Absolutely, and that's what I mean. All right, we've got to take a quick break here. We'll come back one final segment with Amber Graydon, who is going to be at SVSU for the next few days, filling minds full of mush about AI. And we will be back.
Looking for inspiration?
World. Tune in to quality local shows, generating
talking to Amber Graydon. She is Chief of Staff of AI Business Solutions for Microsoft. You might have heard of that small company. So we sit here today, AI in its infancy. It is certainly not even a teenager. It's still in its infancy. What's the future of AI?
So that's the $1 million question. That's a really big question. I would say, yeah. I mean, the past, for all intents and purposes, AI became a household word name, in earnest in the past 3 years. I mean, it's been just, and the question is, will the pace of change remain exponential, or will it plateau at some point? It depends on who you talk to. You'll hear different people say different things.
I have a view.
Okay, I would love to hear that.
It will never plateau. Same way that IT in its various forms has not plateaued.
I don't think it'll plateau, but I don't know if it's going to be the J curve.
Slow down.
Yes. It's been a J curve.
But right now, it's still so young. We don't know its capabilities.
Right. So where we're at right now is, as far as this is Amber's, worldview, my mental model as I think about these things. Right now, there's a lot of pressure on business leaders to go figure out how to use it in their organizations, right? To drive cost efficiencies, usually cost efficiencies and compete, right? In the
follow the money.
So what that looks like in real terms is, people who are embedded in these organizations saying, okay, great, there's this cool new technology. How do we use it in practical ways that saves time and money? And so folks are figuring that out real time, and it's evolving every day. And, when you think about, people figuring it out every day and the technology is changing every day, it's a very ongoing iterative thing as people see the tech doing new things and then learning and adopting best practices as they go.
So if you thought the futurization was $1 million question, this one's got to be worth $1 billion. How do we prevent the misuse of AI?
Yeah. So one of the things that I always talk about when I talk about AI is it's incumbent upon all of us to use it responsibly. And we know that's not going to happen. Not for everybody. My personal view is that it's incumbent upon us as, a population, as, our government, as the organizations disseminating these models out there. My hope is that there will be governance and that there will be, thought put into putting the right safeguards in place. Now, that's anybody's guess where this is going to go. I'm hopeful, when I used the models 3 years ago, I could do things with photos and honestly, I'm making it sound bad, but I was really just uploading my husband's picture and turning him into a bunny rabbit, like dumb things like that. But now I can tell the models, there are more safeguards built in. So for example, my friend was telling me yesterday, she tried to just do something silly with a picture of her daughter who was at the beach in a swimsuit, and the model wouldn't let her do it. And I was very heartened to hear that, because that means that guardrails are being built in.
But that's that model.
Correct.
So go to model B, which says, oh, yeah, we can do that.
Well, and the other thing, too, is those are the large, the hyperscale models.
Yeah.
It is possible to build models that are not, large as well. So I'm hopeful, Art,
Yeah. I am too, because when Amber sat down before the interview, she told me she could take, a few seconds of my voice and create.
It's true. I told Art I would create an Art Lewis GPT, which is not hard to do. I did it for my boss. I literally have a GPT in his voice, so it's fun.
And that's the scary part. I mean, and that really is. And I think in some ways, it's scary for business because you don't know what your competition can do with it, or those that want to detract from your business, what they can do with it. From the standpoint of